Alright, now to finish up talking about Doodle, because, honestly, I'm kinda sick of her. She's shown not much improvement since my last video, so I don't know if I care to waste time on the topic after this. Let's cover Luxter's video on my video talking about how Doodletons is a walking contradiction. I would have gotten to this sooner, but I've been busy. These clips do drag a lot on Lucker's end. I won't do anything to the first clip, just so I can demonstrate how needlessly long this is, but after that I'll cut to the main aspects of my points, the parts that are required.
When people want to shit to stir and want a fight to break out, that's when we should start ignoring them and let them yell into the abyss.
Oh really? While the idea of stepping away when one wants to start a fight over petty shit is certainly noble, I can't even really give her that either. She lasted all but a month without talking about petty drama that was being out to be started. Afterwards, she and Master TP10 made a commentary on the Dark Commentator and DHT commentaries talking about this ImageGate nonsense. To explain, DHT commentaries saw people criticizing commentators for using a single picture for their avatar and made a video saying that people shouldn't do that, considering it's their style of editing. He made this a rule for commentators with the clear intent to get people to jump on one another's case about petty shit like this, wanting to start drama, at least in typical DHT fashion, from what I've seen.
And eventually it got so stupid that people forgot why it was enacted to begin with and why people were recommending for you to get rid of your black borders. It was so fucking dumb to where people thought that having a black background was bad or having a white background was bad. They just completely lost sight of what black borders meant. And for all the people that criticize Black Borders Matter, something new has arisen, and I haven't really seen too many people complaining about it.
Honestly, good. We don't need everyone complaining about it. If there's an issue, fine, address it. But not everyone needs to make a video about the subject. This isn't the Brony analysis community talking about how one of their bigger members is a convicted pedophile. This is the much smaller commentary community talking about whether it's okay to use more than one image in a fucking video.
Dylan, Black Borders Matter lost its way because people started rallying against it, calling it a nitpick that doesn't matter and misunderstanding why people would bring it up as a criticism at all, and others using it as a stupid buzzword for anything that had black in the background. Hell, you even bring the latter up, so you should understand this.
DHT was notorious for wanting to start fights in the commentary community as he was, from what I understand, one of the founders to the alternative commentary community, who was a group of people out to start drama within the community, and Doodle and TP spent almost 40 minutes, giving him exactly what he would have wanted if he hadn't had left before they released their video, but we'll return to this point later.
I might have given you this point if Doodletones and TP were only commentating on Dylan Thomas and they had no other purpose in mind for doing so, because that would show Doodletones was blatantly going against her own advice for no good reason. However, that's not the case here. For starters, they're also commentating on the Dark Commentator, who not only seems to be earnest and wanting to improve, but since Dark's commentary was on Dylan Thomas, they would have to acknowledge and potentially debunk Dylan's original arguments for the sake of getting every side of the issue, so they would have to talk about Dylan at some point.
If they really wanted to cover the Dark Commentator, then why did they choose a video that specifically relies on having to acknowledge DHT? This goes completely contradictory to what Doodle was saying we shouldn't do in her top 10 worst commentaries of 2017 list, because DHT was a drama whore. If you're about to say because the video Dark made was bad, that's no excuse. Doodle didn't have to cover the video if it would go against her own morals, and even then, you can still argue a video without arguing the original degree. So even if, because it was bad, was the excuse Doodle gave, then that's a poor one because it still went against her morals of fighting people who want it.
Oh, but Pink Robot's example shows that Doodle and TP were directly arguing Dylan's point without mentioning Dark at all. They didn't have to do that if they were just commentating on the Dark Commentator.
Why, thank you, Miss Strawman, but your point leads me to my second argument. The ImageGate commentary had another purpose outside of just commentating on the two of them. The point of the video was to talk about the one-picture avatar drama, and Doodletones and TP were commentating on Dark and Dylan in order to show the issues both sides had. By the way, keep this point in mind, it'll be coming back again later.
Doodle actually states later in that very video that Blaze the movie fan and Joshua Culvehouse also made videos talking about the situation.
Now Dylan, I honestly don't expect you to take this criticism, if for no other reason than you recently left commentaries. But this video is an awful problem I saw when it came to Black Borders Matter, and Joshua Culvehouse and Blaze the movie fan also made videos relating to the topic, so I honestly don't care.
And they could have covered those if they really wanted to cover both sides. Or, alternatively, Doodle could have made one of her shitty gameplay rants that only get her into shit to talk about it, so that way she wouldn't have to address DHT at all. In no way that you slice it did Doodle have to acknowledge DHT to cover the topic.
But if they're still commentating on Dylan Thomas, wouldn't Doodle still be going against her own advice about not commentating on people who like to start drama?
If she was only commentating on Dylan, then I would agree with that, because then her only source of information would be a guy who's just doing this to start drama. But since she's also commentating on the Dark Commentator, Doodle and TP have more than just Dylan's voice in this situation. And since they're using both of their videos to speak to the community as a whole, I'd say this doesn't break a rule, since Doodle and TP were doing more in this situation than just commentating on a guy who's starting drama.
Oh well, can't blame the girl for trying. Sayonara!
Why does she always pop in to try and prove me wrong?
First of all, this is your first commentary, and this is the first time we see the character. What the fuck? Second, your point doesn't at all debunk your strawman, as your strawman brought up the ironically good point that Doodle and Master TP10 were still covering DHT when Doodle was trying to avoid drama stirrers as a whole, her exact words being, "When people want shit to stir and a fight to break out, that's when we should start ignoring them and let them yell into the abyss." Thus still putting her in the wrong for fighting with DHT, regardless of whether or not they were also covering the Dark Commentator. Listen to all those rules she places on the commentary community: can't cover a video people don't stand behind, can't cover people who are a troll because they're not serious. What kind of logic are you pitching here, Doodle? Again, I know she has gone on to argue against this stuff, but give it time, she may go back on it again and say that people can't cover trolls.
Okay, this is a minor point overall, but don't you think that's stretching it? She didn't specifically say that you can't commentate on a video someone no longer stands behind, and she definitely did not say you're not allowed to commentate on a troll, at least in the example you showed. She wasn't even framing either of these points as rules. At worst, she was saying that you shouldn't commentate on a troll because you wouldn't be pointing out flaws they actually stand behind.
Let me go through the list of why she framed that whole interjection as a list of rules.
I suppose while that's true, you could have very well pointed out the fact that she's a troll, which you never do in your video. You just kind of point out the fact that Magical Paku Usagi is outdated and irrelevant, which, as I said, isn't wrong. But here's why I point this out, and pardon the tangent I'm about to go on. I point out the fact that pointing out Magical Paku Usagi as a troll would be better because for the sake of this argument, let's just say that she isn't a troll. The question then becomes, does she still stand by the video she made 8 years ago?
Why would we need to ask this question if covering something someone doesn't still stand behind wasn't a taboo to Doodle? If we needed to make sure that what Magical Paku Usagi was saying was still relevant before covering her, that shows that a video that she doesn't stand behind wouldn't be allowed to be covered, no?
I mean, sure, there's no way of knowing for certain as her last video was made in 2009, but again, let's just say, for the sake of this argument, she does. She still stands by the video and thinks it's one of her best videos. At that point, you can still point out flaws from the video to debunk something that they still stand behind.
This would imply if they don't still stand behind the video, you can't still debunk the points they make in the video. Thus a rule.
Pointing out the fact that Magical Paku Usagi is a troll is better on the basis of, this shows that you shouldn't take her videos at all seriously, and doing a commentary on it only gives her what she wanted at the time.
Implying that you can't cover a troll because it gives them what they want.
I know this seems to go against a lot of what I've commentated on in the past, and I know some people may call me out with some previous targets shown on this channel, but the difference with Sonic Master 16, EMG Rants, and Pika Gamer, some of my prime examples of this, is that Sonic Master and Pika were commentating on people who I eventually pointed out were trolls, and in the case of EMG Rants, it was a video that was impossible to tell if Sailor Moon Red 1 still actually stood behind, as Google Hangouts could very well have updated in the time frame of half a year.
Giving examples to how these points were used to discredit videos by EMG Rants, Sonic Master 16 and Pika Gamer, by Doodle's own admission. I don't know how you can look at these main points to her whole interjection and not see that she's abundantly pushing rules onto other commentators, when she herself goes around toting the idea that the commentary community has no rules, nor wants them. Seems very contradictory to me.
Now, to be fair, I guess you could argue that our wording could imply this, but it doesn't help that this example was just Doodle giving Sean a suggestion on what he could have said to further his point. Because the purpose of Doodle's tangent wasn't to speak out against the concept of commentating on a troll in general, but just to give Sean advice.
But what would calling troll actually provide for Sean's video? How would that further or strengthen his point in the slightest, if not adding rules to what commentators can and cannot do? He then gives another example of Doodletons thrusting rules onto other commentators, which is funny because if you wanted to disprove my point about Doodle thrusting rules into commentaries, the last thing you really want to do is provide a secondary example, but okay. So I'll just skip by this to your next point.
Magical Pocky Usagi, and stated that Doodle is against people commentating on trolls in both of these videos. The problem is, this claim is absolutely false, and it can be seen at the very beginning of her second video.
Alright, so today we're visiting a time traveler. Again. Meet the girl with the pink cat, who I guess travels through time to find old topics that I wouldn't even poke at with a 10-foot pole. And for the following group of minutes, you're about to see her cover our good friend Magical Pocky Usagi, who we previously saw back in my Sean Sampson commentary. For those not caught up, Magical Pocky Usagi is a troll who hasn't been around since 2009, meaning she's both digging up a corpse, which I don't really have a problem with, and is reviewing, or commentating, or just overall responding to, someone who's not to be taken seriously at all. But you know what? Let's give this person the benefit of doubt. I suppose you could make a response on a troll and still be correct. Okay, there were several times throughout this video where I just wanted to cut it early on the sheer basis that you left me with nothing to say, and the reason behind that is not because your video was good, it's because a lot of this review or response was really nothing but a poor attempt at a riff. Yeah, shut up, I know it's hypocrisy, but let me finish. The difference of Pinky here and us is intent. I had a few points, certainly, but most of what I wanted to do was joke around. Pinky was not. I left in a lot of these points we had riffed on to show that Pinky was taking Usagi to heart. And that's not good. I mean, yes, you can commentate on a troll and still be correct, but you were not in the few actual points that you actually made. Everything else was you complaining that she's not Japanese, she's a total psycho, she doesn't know her Japanese culture, without realizing that Magical Pocky Usagi is both a troll and his really old topic, being that she's not even around anymore. Which neither are inherent flaws, except you do nothing with them, and that's not mentioning the fact that you wished her harm. Not very many points, not very many criticisms, this was just a salt-filled poke at Magical Pocky Usagi because you thought she was gonna be easy. If I wanted to watch Astro-chan, I would have watched Astro-chan. Combined with the fact that this wasn't even straightforward as to what this wanted to be, this whole thing was doomed from the word go.
These examples doesn't really debunk too much, because if covering a troll wasn't important, why would they bring up the fact that she was a troll? Like it was. She obviously thinks someone covering old videos people no longer stand behind is in fact a problem, but going back to the video with Master TP10, the dark commentator disowned that video prior to Doodle's commentary, and DHT left outright, so neither of them stood behind the debate that was had, and Doodle even acknowledges this.
Now Dylan, I honestly don't expect you to take this criticism, if for no other reason than you recently left commentaries. But this video is an awful problem I saw when it came to Black Borders Matter, and Joshua Colby House and Blaze the Movie Fan also make videos relating to the topic, so I honestly don't care.
Well, looks like Context.exe has left the building. But seriously, this really wasn't a good example. First off, Dark's video wasn't old. It was uploaded on January 27th of this year. And while I can't find the date to Dylan's video anymore, I can likely assume it wasn't far behind.
Length of time is actually irrelevant here, as what Doodle said in the clip I played before was explaining that covering a video that someone doesn't stand behind is faulty, as she used that very point to disregard Megatron's point in whole.
Yeah, that was a problem with my point. I had misinterpreted what Jar was saying all throughout the video and in turn kept arguing that these Pokemon would cause damage instead of straight up destroying Earth. This, by all means, is a valid point. Such a shame that I learned that in May of 2016, whereas this is November of 2017, so this point is redundant and wouldn't do anything towards my recent content.
It gets even more infuriating when Doodle uses this same tactic, of bringing up past shit, to show how much she has taken criticisms from people, despite how long ago this shit was, and how much she has gotten better from her past misdemeanors.
Textbook signs that Doodletones is a social justice warrior. Congratulations, Doodletones! You single-handedly destroyed the commentary community with your sick desires along with your refusal to take criticism and seek help.
I'm just gonna leave the seek help part alone, as that's pretty much a sure sign you've run out of stuff to say about me. Now, as for my presumed refusal to take criticism, may I remind you that what these people were putting in the comment section wasn't criticism, it was simply blasting me for daring to call out Mr. Medicare and support people's right to have a fucking king. When I see legitimate criticism, I either leave it be or I take it into account. You're talking to a person who took actual criticism to better myself when I first joined the commentary community. It was actual criticism that got me where I am today.
This is fucking stupid! You cannot take any goddamn criticism. You can seriously label these motherfuckers as sociopaths because how dare they criticize me?
I can't take any criticism. Until I do, right? Oh, let me count the ways, Master TP10, Jester Robot, Mr. Medicare.
Once again, only in a positive light is her old stuff valid.
I'm sorry, how is mentioning the TP Jar and Medicare incidents as examples of taking criticism a bad thing?
Because it's old, pay attention, My point was in regards to how Doodle will typically get onto other people's cases about the fact that she fucked up in the past as it's no longer relevant, but will use as old, if not older examples to prove that she takes criticism. How do you not see the problem with this?
If she was backhandedly insulting them like she's admittedly done to people before, then I could understand this. But the examples you brought up are people claiming that Doodle can't take criticism, and Doodle then debunking these claims by bringing up incidents where she did take the criticism given to her. Now granted, I think Doodle should have gone into more detail on what criticism she took from those videos, since just disowning the video doesn't automatically mean the creator learned from it, because it could just be a form of damage control, but I don't see the problem with just bringing them up as examples to debunk claims she believes are false.
Then shouldn't people also bring up older examples of points she made that are false and be able to debunk them without Doodle getting onto their cases about them? Or is it okay because it's Doodle? That's the point I'm trying to make. Doodle looks at the length of how old these examples are because they aren't relevant to her content nowadays, but if that's the case, then those very same examples of when she actually took criticism should also not be relevant to her content nowadays, no? Can you not dance around the point as if it doesn't exist, please?
I guess your reason for disliking this is because you believe it's hypocritical for Doodle to bring up her old video in a positive light because she said that people should never cover disowned videos. But even the basis for that claim is wrong, since there are plenty of times where she brings up her old videos in a negative light.
I figure this should all be obvious to you guys. I would honestly hope it's obvious to you all, but I'm not proud of everything I released this year. I honestly make more mistakes than I would like to, and honestly with how high my viewer base puts me, I can easily call myself one of the most overrated commentators of all time. So, with that said, it should be no surprise that on the Doodle Tones Top 10 Worst Commentaries of 2016, a Doodle Tones video would eventually show itself.
So? What does this actually prove, Luxter? That she's also willing to criticize her older content? Well then why is she allowed to do so, but others are not? Is that not actually hypocritical? Not to mention your own example is her top 10 worst commentaries of 2016, which isn't even full attempts at criticism, but are instead just look-backs at videos that came out that year and label them as the worst. This fails to debunk a thing. And your second example didn't even fully criticize her own livestream commentary, it just says people really hated this one on the bottom of the screen as if to show that she doesn't like it only because of the backlash she got, which only really proves my theory of how she disowns videos because they're criticized to be at least plausible. Finally, your last example is in the similar vein as your first one, as Doodle merely brings up that video to look back at the year as a whole, and isn't really criticizing it. One thing that these examples miss out on is how bringing up a video in a bad light isn't inherently criticism, which is what Doodle tries to avoid when people bring up her older content. It also avoids the question of why is it okay for Doodle but not others. In fact, it begs the question further.
Funny, she didn't have anything positive to say about her old stuff in those videos, and these aren't even the only examples of her doing this. There was also that countdown Doodle made where she listed off her top 10 worst commentaries. But I can kind of let that one slide, since it's possible you merely didn't see the video when going through Doodle's channel. That being said, there's no excuse for you missing the other examples I brought up, since you used both of Doodle's worst commentary of the year lists in your video. Now yes, just because someone points out their past mistakes doesn't mean they've learned from them. However, if Doodle Tones only looked at her old stuff in a positive light, like you claimed, these examples would not exist.
Do you have any examples that aren't countdowns where she purposely looks at her mistakes without any point? Or maybe have an example that proves that issues that are brought up to an old video to prove she can be an idiot are valid? Because that's when she'll disregard everything. When people criticize older videos akin to what Megatron was doing earlier. And that's as far as I wish to cover. Luxter makes a very valid point about how Doodle shouldn't be a total dumbass and stream when she's more awake instead of where she's easily susceptible to making retarded decisions like shouting at a kid on stream, and agrees with the fact that Doodle refusing to give Douglas's video a chance shows how much of a coward she is, so I'll just leave it here. As I said in the playlist description, this kinda misses the point. Regardless of how much clarification Doodle does, she is often black and white with her claims, and more often than not, they're very contradictory to one another. You can't really deny that, as she does this on a dime. Anyway, as I said, I'm for now really done with the topic of Doodle, at least for now. I just don't see her improving anytime soon.